Hello everyone and welcome to a Stratus video where I do my best attempt at breaking down my track Can You Feel It, which released on April 25th, 2022. It's been a lot of work to make this project, not only because it's a huge project as you can see, but because I'm really bad at organizing things, and you can probably see by the way that this shit is organized. Regardless, I'm gonna do my best to break it down and kind of show you some of the techniques that I use to make the song that I think you'll find pretty interesting. So make sure you watch this video, drop a like, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more Stratus content. Okay, we're gonna start with the intro, and we're greeted with this kind of ambient intro, kind of synth wavy bass, and some background little airiness. And we got these synthwave drums coming in, and this low pass vocal, and then we're kind of introduced into the chorus of the song. So I want to talk about the elements of this. So one thing that's really cool is this guitar. This is just a little patch that I made that sounds like a guitar, and especially when all the other elements are in it, you can't even tell. And it really adds to that kind of retro wave, synth wavy vibe that I was going for with this intro. Then we also have the pluck here, which sounds like that. And it's a very simple kind of Reese type sound where you have just like the fundamental taken out of this saw wave unison all the way up. And then you got your sub direct out, and then some distortion, low pass, compressor. And you get that kind of almost acid bass mixed with a Reese bass sound just by adding some resonance. This is the little background pad that you'll actually hear in the song, which is very ambient and very nice. If you want to make something like this, I'd recommend checking out my How to Make Ambient Pads video, and you will be able to make pads very similar to this one. Continuing on from the chorus, we kind of have this 8 bars of just chorus. And then we get into the build up here, or I guess the breakdown. And then we have the build up here. And then we have the drop. For the build up, nothing too special is going on here. We just have this kind of impact here to kind of transition. And then we have just this note repeating. And then we have our kind of root notes here. And we kind of have that bass line come in right before the drop, and then in the actual drop we have that same bass line. And what's kind of funny is you might recognize this bass line, and if you're really perceptive, you might have seen it says Yeet remix here. And it's actually because this song was originally a remix of Yeet, a Yeet song. I started working on it and it turned into a really cool song, and I wanted to keep working on it, but I obviously don't have the license to remix Yeet. So yeah, if you want to listen to the original Yeet song, it was Yeet dub, which is actually in 151 BPM, which I found very annoying to find out. Do what you will with that information. So something that I like to do a lot in my songs is add vocal chops, or essentially just like little like chops that I use to kind of play notes. This is actually using a vocoder, so that's why it sounds a little bit different here. And yeah, so like all the vocoder chords are down here for everything, and then all these automations are just automating like reverb and stuff, so you can, it just allows the sounds to transition a little bit better. And then with reverb, it's kind of unnoticeable, but you can actually subconsciously tell, and it just makes the sound flow a little bit better if you add these like short little reverbs added in here. Yeah, so we kind of have like 2 parts to each drop. So we have the 16th notes kind of and then we have the kind of hardcore dubstepy rhythm headbanger part of the drop. So there's actually a lot of layers going on here in the drop part. So this is another little thing that Virtual Riot does a lot, which is add kind of a background growl. And that's kind of just hitting on like 4th notes. So it's like, and And like without it, it's gonna sound totally different, but you might have not even noticed that it was in the song in the first place. And now it sounds like very dry. It sounds like there just needs to be something else added into the mix there. And that's kind of what this achieves, is just adding that kind of like fourth note, like kind of that sound that you want to like bang your head to. You can see it's just kind of using this filter here to make that vowel-y oi e sound. And then here is kind of our main growl and bass. That's being done with actual vocoding over here in this kind of bus. I can change around the sound. A lot of that sounds actually really cool. This isn't being vocoder to anything except itself, so I basically just slapped a vocoder on there and messed with the settings, and then it sounds sick. Right here we have a couple virtual Riot samples here. It looks like there's like this one, and they're just kind of layered on top of each other. And then there's this wah sample. It's this sound that I made a really long time ago, but I've kind of like put it into my tracks. Oh, it's right here, yeah. So that's a sample that I have in my sample pack, actually. I think I'm gonna release this sample pack maybe on a Patreon at some point. And then throughout the drop here, we kind of just have going back into part one of the drop. So it's kind of an A, B, A, C, where the second drop is a little bit different, where we have kind of these 16th notes and quarter notes. And then we kind of have everything getting low passed, and then we just have this impact to bring it back into the chorus. So once again, we have our chorus, and we have our build up, pretty similar as before, but this second drop is very, very different. So you can see it totally changed tones here and kind of goes for a more melodic Chainsmokers kind of Roses type song. And I think that's kind of what I was going for, is just like using those vocal plucks and, you know, kind of making that the main element of the song. One thing that I did, which is very important for the sound, is this slap transient here. If you listen for that sound specifically, you don't hear it. Like it's not audible, right? But if I turn it off, now it feels like something's missing. It feels like these vocal chops don't have any punch to them. But now it sounds like every single one of them has like a transient, and that's effectively what adding the transient does. It makes it sound like a cohesive like stab almost. You know, it changes the shape of the sound, and it just changes how you perceive the sound in your mind, even though it's mostly subconscious. And then the second part of the second drop, we have some hats come in. It's this cymbal loop, dude, I'm so lazy when it comes to cymbals. To be completely honest with you, I go onto Splice and I grab the first cymbal loop that I find and I slap it in there, and this one just sounded good. For each new part of the drop, there's just this callback to the vocal where it plays that really kind of reverbed version of the vocal here. And then in the second drop we have, you know, I guess you could say it's the E drop, and then we go back into the A, B, A, D drop. And then we have the build up once again, and then right when you expect it to drop, we kind of have a second riser come in. And then what I do here is kind of combine every single one of the previous drops into one kind of mega drop. Calls back to pretty much all the other previous sounds and combines it into one. So we have that plucky like 16th notes that we have in the A-B drop, and then we also have the growls that we have in the drops, and then we also have kind of the same sounds that we have in this part of the drop. It's really just bringing all the previous parts of the song and taking it to this one final kind of drop, where I wanted just to have this crazy shit going on basically the entire time. A lot of it has to do with just like automation, automating, you know, random sounds. Something that you like might hear is this part are actually being done with the same bass, and I think that's just being done by changing vocoder settings around. And then these are all little like tidbits or fills that are used. and, you know, soloed out, they're kind of boring. Kind of a neuro bass glide, which I've covered in tutorial on how to make basses. Go check that video out as well if you want to know how to make a lot of these sounds, actually. The wump sound, you know, the glide sound, those are all in my video, so check that out. Here is where I am going to do some of the sound design techniques that I used. The previous segment was kind of just for structure and showing you how I organize the song, and then this section is going to be kind of more on the sound design of each element, or some of the elements that I find most present in the song. I think some of the sound design techniques that I use are actually very interesting. I will start off by showing you how the first drop is made. We have this bass here that is being modulated by its volume here. It has its seventh very present in here. And you can see it's a mix of a bunch of different sounds. So we first have this very high passed sound, and you can see it has its seventh. This is a seventh of this note. And then we have just a very distorted sub. And then we actually cut out the fundamental, and that allows me to just add harmonics in here. And that's the sound that's going to be played on the phone speakers. So, you know, a lot of people listen to songs without headphones. If you do that, don't do that. But, you know, if you have no other choice and you have to listen to it on your phone, go ahead and listen to it on your phone. But no, just a lot of sound design techniques went into that just so you could listen to it on your phone and not think, damn, this song's trash. And one of those techniques is adding harmonics to your sub, and allowing those harmonics to be kind of present in the mix. That way, even if the sub is not being played on the phone speakers, your mind still perceives the sound as being a bass sound. Basically what happens is your mind hears the harmonics and not the fundamental frequency, which is the sub in this case. And your brain just does, you know, some weird perception, and, you know, your brain recognizes it as a sub bass even though the sub isn't actually being played. So that's why I have a couple separate sounds here. One for the sub, one for the bass. This sound right here is really made by coincidence. I don't think I wanted to. I didn't think I came into this sound design process of like, this is the sound I want to make and this is how I'm going to make it. I think I was honestly just screwing around with things and found that vocoding this sound somehow turned into making this sound. I don't know how, but it works. Yeah, so it looks like this song, this bass right here is being passed to the vocoder as well. So they're both being vocoded into one kind of sound. For the more melodic vocal plucky stuff, we have kind of two layers of vocals here. That's playing the melody, and then we kind of have just the root note being played. And that's all being vocoded, which gives it the vocoder sound. I guess I can show you this sound. This is a sound that's being used throughout the song quite a bit. A little growl here using the HP12 filter, and some monster FMing to a sine wave, distortion, compression, EQ, chorus for width, and then looks like some compression, sausage fattener. And then I think I just take the sub here and amplify it so I can use the sub to distort the sample. And then I'll end up just kind of dropping the low end. And that's something that is like very useful because you want the distorted low end sound without actually having the distorted low end. That's how you do it. Kind of the only new elements that are added are in the final drop. And this is the wump. Just made by kind of using a low pass, like so, with a LFO. And yeah, just modulating a bunch of things in order to kind of change which frequencies are being accentuated here. This FM is taking the sine wave and FMing it from a saw wave. And the amount of FM changes as the filter goes up, so more harmonics are being FM'd and are being allowed to be heard. So I mean, that's pretty much all the sound design techniques that I found pretty interesting in this song. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something. Stick around for the next video and I'll see you then.